Welcome! Today is all about QuickBooks Online and setting up a chart of accounts for a real estate company. We're going to talk about 5 different things during this conversation. First, we're going to talk about how to what the importance is of setting up a chart of account. Next, we're going to talk about enabling the account settings. Third, we're going to talk about prepping to import a chart of accounts. 4, importing that file. And 5, the customization that needs to happen. So with that said, I am Jerry Frank, I'm CEO of STRATAFOLIO, and I am here with Amy Heinen from Quick Action Accounting.
Hi Jerry. This is a great opportunity to help business owners get off on the right foot with their chart of accounts, which is the first step in setting up your whole accounting system.
So what if you don't set it up right? What's the problem?
Imagine you have a map that's just roads. Nothing is labeled. There's no destinations, there's no cities, landmarks, and you're driving along following this map, taking turns, hoping that you end up at the right destination. Well, I like to set up the chart of accounts so that the business can record all their transactions strategically and use the reports it generates throughout the year to steer their business into the right directions. Sometimes just a slight adjustment or change in your procedures and business model can give you a completely different end result.
Okay. Well, I think that's really important because it is all about making those little improvements to have a really good business. So with that said, what is the function of a chart of accounts? Let's talk about that.
A business needs to know where their money came from, where their money went, and how much money they still have on hand. Your chart of accounts is that tool, that structure, where you can record everything and then report everything and share that data with your lenders, accountants.
Okay, great. With that said, are we ready to get started?
I think so.
All right, let's get started then on getting this chart of accounts set up.
We're using QuickBooks Online today with this video. And the first thing we need to do on this sample company that we just set up is to go into the accountant settings. So if you click on the gear icon in the upper right corner, click on accountant settings. We're going to go into the advanced settings and turn on or enable the account numbers. So if we click there, we can just enable it and save it. Now, the account numbers are used for multiple reasons. Mostly it's just to help organize it in the order you want your chart of accounts to look like. I use a 5-digit account number. So the first 2 digits are used mostly for what type of account, whether it's an asset, a liability, equity, income account, or an expense account.
Okay.
And then the 3rd number can be used if you're trying to track things for different departments or divisions of your business. And the last 2 can be used for account specifics and if you have sub-accounts.
Okay.
Back in QuickBooks Online, to find that chart of accounts, you click on the side menu, you click on Accounting, which brings up the chart of accounts. Now we enabled the account numbers and they're not showing up. So the setting, this little small gear icon over here brings up your settings. And we can pick which columns we want to show.
Okay.
So I'm going to turn that column on. And we're going to go ahead and close this box. There's lots of pop-ups in QuickBooks Online intended to help. You had already gone in. The template chart of accounts has numerous accounts that we just want to remove as many accounts as we can that won't be needed. And that way when we import, we don't get duplicates. So to delete an account, you hit the drop down arrow and just click delete. And then yes. There are a few accounts that are default for importing transactions that it won't allow you to delete. Uncategorized assets is one of them. So we're going to try to get through some of these others quickly. Well, undeposited funds is another one. So if you try to delete one, you're not going to break QuickBooks. It won't let you if it
That is good to know that I cannot break the system.
It's very forgivable. After deleting, we have the accounts that QuickBooks won't let us delete.
Okay.
Now we're going to import the template chart of accounts. So this drop down by new, which is to set up a new account, allows you to import. We have that loaded.
Mm-hmm. It's on our desktop. Yep, there it is.
Okay. So we'll hit open. And we'll click the next. Then we route. They're already set up on the right format in our files, so we can just hit next. It brings up all of the accounts that it's going to go ahead and import. So if there were any edits you knew you were going to want, or you thought of an account that you didn't think you were ever going to use, you could go ahead and not bring it over.
Okay.
I don't. So then when we click import, it's showing us here that it imported 51 of the 52 accounts. It looks like the undeposited funds, which if you recall when we were deleting, I attempted to delete that one and it wouldn't let me, but it didn't duplicate it. It just shows you that it didn't import that one.
Okay.
So we can go ahead and close out of this menu.
Do we want to import it first?
Well, that would import the undeposited funds. We don't need.
I see.
It
Okay.
already did the others.
Okay.
Want to leave without saving? Yes. So now our chart of accounts has
they're all
grown. And we have everything in here with the account numbers except for the accounts that were already listed that didn't have an account. So we can go in and edit those and add an account number.
Okay.
To edit one of them, say retained earnings, we can just hit the drop down arrow and click edit, go to the number field and put in the right number. And now if we go back to equity, here was opening balance equity is an account that QuickBooks will use when you're initially importing transactions. If there was an opening balance in a bank account, it'll use that to offset initially.
Okay.
It's not an account you'll have a balance in down the road.
Okay.
So it did not have that in the chart of accounts. So you may, after you import, all of a sudden have a duplicate. So equity, which is the standard, is the same number as opening balance equity. So we can just change by editing and clean. There's always just a little bit of cleanup, but not near as much time as when you start from scratch. And then we can get rid of the asterisk that it added.
And it added it because?
You can only use each number one time.
Okay.
For the most part, there isn't a lot. The uncategorized asset account, it's set up for when you import transactions, if you don't classify a transaction, it'll automatically put them in the uncategorized accounts. So if you get something in those accounts, you probably need to go in and edit the transaction anyway. So you could just leave them unnumbered because they won't actually be used in your reports.
And should it have numbers like 3,900, 3,900 again? Or 39,000, 39,000?
No. Did it?
Let's see the number.
Oh, here? That's just how it's showing it. It doesn't actually have it anywhere. That's just, so if we didn't show, if we didn't have this column, then it still shows you the account number.
Okay. All right, now that this file has imported, what do we do next?
We can go in and add any missing account numbers on the accounts that were already set up. Like undeposited funds, I believe on our template, we have it numbered 12,000. And then save and close that. Some of the accounts, like uncategorized asset, they are in the chart of accounts as a default account that QuickBooks uses when you import transactions. If you don't categorize something, it'll go to one of the uncategorized accounts.
Okay.
When you review your reports, if you see something in them, you probably need to edit the transaction and fix it anyway.
Okay.
So I might leave those unnumbered.
Okay. Just so they stand out a little more?
Right. This services income, eventually we can delete that once we have sales items set up that lead to the income account we want to use.
Okay.
So for now, I would just leave it.
Okay.
But the rest is good to go. The other edit that needs done though is if any of the accounts should be a sub-account. And I think in our template, we have professional services, which is 65,000. And we want legal fees, accounting fees, and consulting fees to be sub-accounts of professional fees. You cannot import them as a sub-account, so this is the time to go ahead and set that up. So if you go ahead and hit the drop-down arrow again, hit edit. If it's a sub-account, you just check it there, and then you put in your parent account, which is professional fees. And then save and close. Now in the chart of accounts, any sub-accounts show up indented. That kind of helps you see your structure. So if we go ahead and edit this one, and then the last one.
This feels like a really smooth, easy process to me.
Definitely saves time over setting them all up individually. Now, if there were any accounts that you want to add that aren't in our template that are unique for your business, if you want to add them in QuickBooks Online, at the top of the chart of accounts, there's this new. You just select new. Maybe you have 2 different banks. So then we would want to set up another bank account. And then we would number it. So then you would have a second checking account listed. You could set up numerous, if you had a checking, a savings, a money market, as sub-accounts of your bank accounts as well.
Okay. All right.
The other customization that we did in our desktop example was to set up sub-accounts for each property, since this is a real estate business. It's good to track your fixed assets by property.
Right. So before, when we've talked about fixed assets, you've said we needed to set up sub-accounts for those?
It's helpful for your organization down the road to see the value between building and land and improvements for each property.
Okay.
And then if you sell any properties, you can just get a little more clarity.
So each property is distinct within dwelling, land, property improvements.
Right.
Okay.
We can set up additional accounts as sub-accounts to each of them.
Okay.
So we set up new. And those are fixed assets. And dwelling is our first one. So it'll be a sub-account of the dwelling account. And we'll call that property A.
Okay.
Some people will list addresses, or if it's just a commercial building, you might put the name of the building.
Okay.
If it has.
That makes sense.
And the account number we'll use, 14,000 is your dwelling account. So this is where we'll use the last two digits to add the sub.
Okay.
And then we'll be consistent throughout the chart of accounts that the sub-account 10 is property A.
Okay.
And then instead of save and close, I'm going to do save and new. And go in fixed assets. And for the land, once again, we want property A. Our land is 16,000, so this would be 16,010. Sub-account of land.
It's nice you can just type in the letters to get there too.
Right, you don't have to memorize the account numbers. Then it'd be nice if it would remember I'm doing all fixed assets right now, but. So then back under here, under the property improvements, which is the 17,000, we're going to have property A. So let's go ahead and close it so we can see what we did. So now your chart of accounts should show property A under each of the fixed assets. We can also track accumulated depreciation by property if you want, or you can just have a total. It depends if your goal is to hold on to your property for many, many years, then it might not be as important as showing it by property. It'll make, if you're selling properties, it'll make it simpler if you've kept track of the accumulated depreciation for each property.
Okay.
Then we can also keep with each property, usually is a mortgage, so we can keep that consistency. As we went back to the chart of accounts to see the results, we can see those sub-accounts. If we had multiple properties, we could just continue setting them up. Some people may want to go ahead and set up sub-accounts for accumulated depreciation. You also would be depreciating your furniture and equipment, so you'd have to have a unique sub-account under there, or else set up a second account just for accumulated depreciation of your furniture and equipment separate.
Okay.
This might be more of like office furniture and equipment.
Okay.
The other accounts that come along with owning one property might be, or most likely would be, a mortgage.
Most likely, yes.
So we would go ahead now and set up a sub-account of real estate mortgages for that property.
Okay. And once again, we'd follow the same pattern where property A was going to
Right.
have that same.
So in this instance, though, your mortgage is a liability, not a fixed asset.
Okay. And that is a long-term one.
Unfortunately, that's usually the case. So here's our real estate mortgage account, which gives me that account number. So I'm going to keep consistent and use 10 and just put property A up here again. Save and close that. Along with the mortgage, there's often an escrow account where the lender pools funds to pay the property taxes and insurance. So under the escrow account, which we treat as a bank account because it has expenses pay out of those funds, which are technically yours still, we should also set up the sub-account. So you're tracking each escrow account on its own. You can reconcile them and keep them in balance.
Okay.
So we're going to go ahead and set up a sub-account, which is a checking account, a bank account. We treat it just like a checking for property A. And we will keep the same last two digits for property A or 10. Make it a sub-account of escrow. That works.
Awesome. So any final words on setting up a chart of accounts?
Don't be afraid to customize your chart of accounts for your business. If one of the names on an account doesn't make sense to you, to go ahead and customize it so that it makes sense for your business.
Because ultimately it is about you looking at those reports and making the most sense out of them.
Right. And the chart of accounts that you're using will help a profit and loss statement tell you the story of how you got to that bottom line.
Okay. Well, this has been, once again, incredibly helpful. Our previous videos have gone over very well, and I think this one will too. Thank you so much. And for our viewers out there, you can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and YouTube. So we would appreciate the likes, we appreciate the comments, and keep the suggestions coming. Thank you very much.